Welcome to Echoes of Time, a journey into the forgotten worlds and the secrets they left behind.
All right, today we are getting into the incredible, and let's be honest, often tragic story of Diana, Princess of Wales. We're going to trace her journey from this shy young woman who was suddenly thrust onto the world's biggest stage to becoming this global icon who completely carved her own path. It's really a story about what happens when a fairy tale dream smacks right into a very painful reality.
And let's just start right here. This one question. Wow. She said this right before her wedding, and it just perfectly captures the huge conflict at the heart of her life. The entire world was watching this fairy tale unfold, but privately she was filled with this sense of dread. This single quote, honestly, it sets the stage for everything that was about to happen.
So how did this all even begin? Well, back in the early 80s, the hunt was on for the perfect bride for the future king, Prince Charles. And you know, the royals had a pretty specific checklist. She had to be an aristocrat, a Protestant, and, this was a big one, she had to have, let's just say, no romantic history. And then along comes 19-year-old Lady Diana Spencer. She seemed to tick every single box.
And when I say things moved fast, I mean lightning fast. Look at this timeline. The courtship starts in the summer of 1980. By February of 81, he proposes. And just 5 months later, they're married. And this wasn't just any wedding. It was watched by something like 750 million people. It was the event of the century.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. While the whole world is buying into this perfect storybook romance, behind the scenes, things were already starting to fall apart. The source material makes it super clear that there were signs of trouble from the very beginning. They were just not a good match, and the pressure was already immense.
And if you need proof, look no further than this. In their official engagement interview, a reporter asked if they were in love. Diana immediately chirps up, "Of course." But then Charles adds this incredibly awkward and now infamous line, "Whatever love is." It was just bizarre. And for Diana, and for a lot of people watching, it felt like a massive red flag.
So after the wedding, that fairy tale image just begins to disintegrate. Diana suddenly dropped into this incredibly rigid, old-fashioned world, and the reality of her new life, well, it was nothing like what the public thought it was.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly.
On one side, you have the public perception, right? The glamorous couple, the adoring fans, the two beautiful sons. A modern fairy tale. But the private reality? It was a world of crushing loneliness for Diana. Constant fights with Charles, and this inescapable shadow of his old flame, Camilla Parker Bowles.
And we're not just talking about little disagreements here. The problems were deep. The source talks about Diana finding a bracelet Charles had made for Camilla, engraved with the initials of their nicknames for each other. Then, on their honeymoon, she sees him wearing cufflinks with two C's intertwined. Can you imagine? It just showed her that she was the outsider in her own marriage.
So, living in this pressure cooker of isolation and emotional turmoil, it eventually leads to a complete personal crisis for Diana. The weight of it all was just enormous, and it started to show in some really painful ways that affected her mind and her body.
Our source material is very direct about this. Diana developed bulimia. It became this coping mechanism, a way for her to deal with feeling so powerless and unhappy. And it was this awful, painful secret she had to carry, all while putting on a brave face for the cameras. Listen to her own words. Hopeless. Trapped. Unwanted. That's how she described feeling inside the royal family. Can you imagine? It wasn't just that she was sad. She was in this profound state of despair, feeling like she had absolutely no one to turn to. And the source points to these moments that were just obvious cries for help. At one point, when she was pregnant, she fell down a flight of stairs. The official story was that it was an accident, but the source portrays it as an act of pure desperation because she felt so completely ignored by Charles. These weren't just mood swings. This was a woman in extreme distress.
But then, this is where the story takes a really powerful turn. Instead of letting all that private pain destroy her, Diana starts to find a new purpose. She begins to build a whole new identity for herself, one that had absolutely nothing to do with being Charles's wife.
So that's the big question, isn't it? When you feel trapped in this giant institution, in a marriage that's making you miserable, where on earth do you find your strength? For Diana, the answer was to turn outwards, to connect directly with people. And she did it in 3 key ways. First, she totally changed the game when it came to royal charity work, getting personally involved in a way no one had before. Second, she got over her shyness and became this really compelling public speaker. And third, she just went right around the palace officials and made this genuine, emotional connection with regular people.
Her work with AIDS patients was just revolutionary. You have to remember, this was a time when people were terrified of the disease. There was so much stigma. And she just walks into a hospital and shakes an AIDS patient's hand without wearing gloves. It seems like a small thing now, but it was a huge deal. It sent this powerful message of compassion all over the world.
And this new strength wasn't just for public appearances. The source describes this incredible moment where Diana walks right up to Camilla at a party and confronts her. This quote, "It just shows you this is a woman who is done suffering in silence. She had found her voice, and she was going to use it."
And so, that brings us to her legacy, because through this whole process, Diana completely rewrote the job description of a princess. The role she created for herself was way more powerful and had a much bigger impact than the one she was just handed by marriage. In the end, she managed to turn all of her personal pain into this platform for helping others around the world. Yeah, her title opened doors, but it was her empathy, her ability to truly connect with people who were hurting, that made her a global icon. She wasn't known as the future king's wife. She became the Queen of Hearts.
This final quote, it just says it all, doesn't it? It's her declaration of independence. She knew her purpose and her path were now her own, totally separate from the monarchy and her broken marriage. She was going to make her mark on the world on her own terms.
And that kind of leaves us with this final thought. Diana's life really makes you ask what matters more. Is it the title you're born into or given, or is it the purpose you find for yourself? Her story makes a pretty strong argument that a true legacy isn't about your position, it's about your impact.
This was Echoes of Time. If you love powerful history stories, subscribe and continue the journey with us.